Alright guys, Tactical here today, and I'd like to talk about this Midnight Esports, the new roster, because I talked a couple of days ago about the saga with the old situation where the other guys were effectively forced to leave the team due to the contract stuff and the fact that the organisation didn't want them in the team due to, well, basically the reason is that they wanted to get big name players, franchise players that Midnight Esports can then sell on next year when franchising comes around for more profit. So, well, I guess that's fair enough on the organisation standpoint. A lot of people would argue that it's on the rules and the CWL that have led that to be the case. So I'll talk about exactly where those guys on the old roster went, and then yeah, we'll get into this new team. It's a very interesting one indeed. They're going to walk right into a 5-2 league spot that the other guys had done so well. It's really devastating that they were effectively forced to split up like they were. I was really intrigued to see how they would perform at CWL Fort Worth, which starts March the 15th in, of course, Fort Worth, because they were such a cool underdog story. They seem to have got all the parts meshing perfectly. They were super good in all their roles, and it was a fantastic underdog story. And what we get here is the same old recycled names come back into the Pro League. Some people would say that's fair enough, but I think on the whole it's a bit of a shame that the Midnight situation went down as it did, and we're going to go through this change in the coming minutes here. So like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. I really appreciate it. It really helps, especially liking, getting the video up to the recommended standpoint for other people that may end up finding this channel. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Let's get on with the video here. So this is the team. LlamaGod remains. Parasite is really the big story here, I guess. Hagi being back in the league. I know a lot of people wanted to see this because he's played really well so far. Arguably a player that's played even better throughout Black Ops 4 so far is Lacefield. Pretty legendary name as well. He joins the team. Then we have Blazt and Saint. So it's a very interesting squad. Panda still remains the substitute on the team, and he's kind of like a flex. He can use a sub, he can use a Maddox, so maybe he can potentially come in if they require it. But this is the team of 5, and let's go through it in a bit more detail. I thought you guys would enjoy how they announce these changes. So we have this announcement. This is where Midnight Esports effectively announced their rebrand. Look at that gorgeous logo. Crisp, huh? So they get this new logo in. This is their rebrand. Saints joins the team. This was their announcement. Like, what is going on here? And then the second announcement, we have this one. Parasite, Lacefield, and Blazt joining the team. They didn't even try to Photoshop out the fact that it says Ghost on his hoodie. Even his hat, like, it could have been pretty easily Photoshopped out the G logo there. But whatever, this is the team. It could be a good one, and we're going to go through exactly why that is today. This is what the CEO had to say about these additions. This guy honestly is something else. This guy's probably a pretty crude businessman in terms of the stuff he's done to the guys on Midnight, supposedly trying to force them to sign a 3-year contract to the point where, well, inevitably when they don't get a franchise spot, they can guarantee they can sell those old players on for more money, and then as a result those players that used to be on the team, of course the squad of Envoy, Brack, LlamaGod, who is still on the team, but also we had Jetly and Parzelion. Those guys are all off the squad now. I'll talk about where they ended up in just a second here if you guys didn't catch it. And yeah, now Midnight are stuck with this new team. I mean, okay, it's stuck with as a questionable one because these are big name players. They could potentially perform and turn it up, but of course Midnight were a team that a lot of people were rooting for, and now I don't think a lot of people are really going to get behind this team, potentially as a result of the organisation they now find themselves under. Of course, you can't say anything negative really towards the players that have got this opportunity on the team, considering, well, you know, a Pro League spot's a Pro League spot, and I'm sure that MLG are holding a pretty tight leash over Midnight now, so they should be pretty confident that Midnight aren't going to try anything dodgy like they did to the previous guys. That's what I would presume, but this is what he has to say about it. So glad to have Parasite be part of the Midnight Purple Storm. With Parasite, Midnight will continue to silence the doubters with our gameplay capitalised. He says the same thing about all the other players are joining. It's just fantastic, man. Like, what is going on here? Just mwah. So to talk about where some of the other players ended up, this is Jetly and Brack going on to this Accelerate squad. I might talk about this in a couple of days here, but yeah. Profizi, Emery's, Skies, and then Jetly and Brack going on to this team. Parzelion went on to UYU in replacement for Skies onto that squad. And then, of course, the last man in Envoy has gone on to Gen G, it does seem. So they've all found pretty good homes. LlamaGod has stayed on this Midnight Esports team, which I think is a clever move, and I'll go through why in just a second. LlamaGod was the player on this team that no one was really talking about. We'll look at his stats in a second here, but he was playing very well overall, but the real plaudits went to, I would say, maybe Brack and Envoy tied for number 1, and then we have Parzelion was definitely getting a lot of love in that ICR role, and then of course Jet Li was really hailed as a really good sub-partner to Envoy, pushing up the lanes, playing very sneaky. People were talking about those players more than they did LlamaGod, even though his KD, especially in control, is spectacular. So I'm pretty sure he knew that if he was going to leave this team, he would have a tough time getting back on another Pro League squad. So he got the opportunity and he decided to sign whatever contract Midnight were offering him, which may even be something like a 3-year deal like some people were talking about, which of course isn't going to come into fruition, but inevitably it means that they're going to get a fair bit of cash for LlamaGod when eventually he is sold off. So I guess it works on both parties there. I think Llama's made an intelligent decision at least. And the squad he has around him, a couple of these guys he's played with before, well, at least Lacefield, which we'll talk through in a second here. This team is very interesting in terms of the composition because role-wise it seems to make sense. Haggy and Parasite is probably going to be the main assault rifle on this team. Parasite's also known as Haggy because there was a picture that went around when Parasite was much younger. He looked a bit like Hagrid, if you guys aren't aware of that story. So if I call him Haggy, ignore me, like it's just easier to say. So yeah, Parasite, Lacefield. Lacefield and Saints are going to be the sub-duo on this team. Parasite's probably going to be the main AR, and then you have Llama and Blazt on the Maddoxes. It kind of makes sense in terms of role composition. When you look at it from a leadership perspective, Parasite's going to be that guy who's going to be super vocal, and he does have experience with some of these players before. The team dynamic's quite interesting here because the players that have played with each other before, they're kind of in pairs. There's never been like 3 of these guys that have been on one team before, but they do have some experience playing with each other. So it's definitely possible it could work. They don't have a coach right now as far as I understand because Midnight did have Ricky Atura as their coach. He's now gone over to EXG or Accelerate to be their coach. So yeah, this is the squad. These guys are going to walk right into a 5-2 spot in the league, which is quite remarkable. Of course, they're not going to be able to play this quite yet. They will play 2 weeks of action after Fort Worth. So for you guys wondering, there's a roster change period that has just finished before Fort Worth. Then after Fort Worth, Division A plays against Division B. Every team plays every other team in the other division once. And then after those 2 weeks of play, there's another roster change period starting April the 8th. So this team will have to play for at least that long, unless of course they decide to substitute in Panda or they do something like that, which we've seen other teams do. But they will be returning to the league with a 5-2 record, however well they do at Fort Worth, which is quite remarkable. The best win rate percentage in the entirety of the league outside of 100 Thieves. So it's quite sad to see the demise of this Midnight team, but, you know, they were effectively forced to split apart here because Midnight decided, you know, we don't want to sign these guys unless we're going to get a really long-term contract with them so we can guarantee them sales, whereas the situation where, as it is right now with franchising around the corner, if you get a Parasite on the team, you get a Lacefield, you can guarantee you're going to be able to sell these guys for decent money because they have big brands on their back, and that's really what it's about in Call of Duty. When the debate comes up around streaming scrims and the like, it's super helpful for especially players that don't have much of a brand to stream their scrims, because if you can build some sort of social media presence, you are instantly a worthwhile purchase for potentially a franchise player next season. And Envoy's definitely been trying it, but the rest of the guys, Midnight decided as a business decision, it's much better for us to get in some bigger names. And well, it's unfortunate the way it worked out, but that's what the rules allowed, I guess. So let's have a look at Parasite's career right here. This guy is an absolute legend. He's been around forever. He of course won the 2013 World Championship alongside Killer, Karma and Miracles on that Furico Impact team, so he is a former world champion, hasn't really come close to it since then, but a lot of people have said he's been definitely a very solid player, and I still think he's very talented on the sticks. So we go through Ghost. The last time he was in the league was back in Infinite Warfare. Towards the end of IW, he was on this Evil Geniuses team with Nameless, Havoc and Nagafen, and yeah, they managed to come top 12 in Stage 2. They had a pretty decent result at Anaheim as well. Then in World War II, he was on that Ghost Gaming team towards the end, never really had a crazy amount of success, but as you can see here, he does have some experience with these players. He played with Lacefield a fair bit last season, so this Ghost Gaming squad, he was with Lacefield and Panda, and well, Panda is on the bench right now. You never know, he might come into play for a guy like Blazt if he doesn't really perform too well on LAN. That's definitely a possibility. And coming into Black Ops 4, Parasite stayed teaming with Lacefields on that Pittsburgh Knights squad, where they eventually swapped Lacefield out, who went to G2, for Saints at the Pro League qualifier. So Parasite has some experience teaming with Saints, no real success there, and with Lacefield as well. So there's a kind of couple of duos in there which are now on this Midnight team. Lacefield's career has been relatively shorter, but we look back at the end of Infinite Warfare into World War II. You see how he was on this Ghost Gaming team with actually LlamaGod was here as well, so even this experience with LlamaGod they've had in the past, and then of course he goes on to this team with Parasite, and then going into the Pro League qualifier, he was teaming with Blazt, so another player who's on this squad. So pretty much most of the guys on this team have had some experience playing with some other people on the team in the past. There is some chemistry there. I'm sure this is largely the reason why they decided to go this route, because I even heard there were stories about maybe Mad Cat and Alex over from, you know, Lightning Panda squad were being considered for a team like this. but as it turns out, that's kind of what Codburner was saying, but I think that the guys decided that they needed some sort of more chemistry than that, and well, this is the team as it turned out in Lacefield, Parasite, LlamaGod, Blazt, and Saints. So let's have a look at some of their statistics. This is at Vegas. Lacefield and Parasite are the real heavy hitters on this team, it does seem. Lacefield had a 1.25 overall. This is adjusted KD, the 1.19, which shows that he was effectively worse in search than he was in the respawn game modes, but a 1.25 overall, I kind of prefer using traditional KD. And Parasite had a 1.23 down here. Saints was the man who was pretty much struggling, and a lot of people would say that Saints has not been the player that he was back in the past. He's a pretty legendary SMG player, and the Lacefield and Saints duo, theoretically, in terms of names alone, is really scary. And how Lacefield has been playing so far is definitely potential to be fantastic if Saints can get his act into gear, because he wasn't as good at Vegas as you would expect from him traditionally. And then at the Pro League qualifier, Lacefield kept it up on that G2 team. A 1.19 overall, a 1.28 adjusted KD. He was superb in Search and Destroy throughout that event. And what may be surprising, because I was thinking that Saints had a pretty bad PLQ as well, but Parasite sat here at a 1.06, which is definitely respectable, very good S&D as well, as you can tell. But if we scroll down not too far, we find Saints here at a 1.06 as well, with the SMG in hands on that Pittsburgh Knights squad. I really think it was Ricky that was kind of dragging that team down in the statistical department, but they had a very tough pool as well, where all the 5 top teams in that pool did qualify above them in Pool C. And these are the Pro League stats for LlamaGod, courtesy of EasyMax. So we have this lovely graph in the top left here. I'm pretty sure it's a moving average now, so it doesn't show individual series scores, but it kind of shows a trend over time. And we can see how his hardpoint KD was improving. His control was unbelievable over the first few days. We saw some incredible stuff from him. Still holds a 1.5 almost, second rank in terms of control at the end of the second week of action. So definitely LlamaGod seems like a very talented player in this game. His S&D may well be kept up by Parasite and Saints, and of course Blastful is known as a bit of an S&D star as well, even though he's largely considered an onliner and doesn't necessarily perform when we go to LAN. But the team is very interesting. I feel like there's got to be some potential here. I'm not sure they'll be as good as the old Midnight roster anytime soon, but Lacefield and Parasite, it's really interesting to see, because Parasite back in the league is a big story on its own right. I'm not sure how good these guys are going to be. A lot of talent on this squad. I feel like LlamaGod and Blazt are not necessarily going to be the best Maddox duo, and it really relies on Saints for me, because I think you know what you're going to get out of Parasite, but maybe he's too good of a player to be stuck into that ICR role. I see a lot of success of his has come with the Maddox in hand, so maybe they'll even favour playing the faster pace maps, where Parasite can pull out that Maddox, something like a frequency. Maybe that more suits his comfort zone and can mean he's more influential on the game, because he does seem like a very good player here in Black Ops 4. Lacefield has been spectacular so far in the season. He's definitely someone to be watched out for, and if Saints can really turn up and perform like we expect of him, this team could be dangerous, but their pool at CWL Fort Worth is not easy by any means. This is the pool. They're in Pool C with that Accelerate team, which we just talked about, of Skies, Ruiz, Profizi, Brack, and Jet Li, and then they're alongside Splice and Luminosity, so this is a tough one for sure. Splice and LG were, well, Splice in week 1 showed a lot of great form, LG in week 2 showed a lot of great form, and well, Midnight, this is obviously a completely different squad. It's been completely overwritten. The Midnight guys are scattered everywhere. Will this team be as good as the old Midnight team? I very much doubt it. I think they could still be competitive though, and upset is definitely on the cards here. You have the possibility of, well, these guys, there's no script on them, there's no VODs to watch, you have no idea how this new Midnight team are going to be playing unless you're watching scrims and the like, which I think Parasite has been streaming a few. But yeah, this is a kind of unknown quantity going into this event, and a team like Splice, the fact that they lost to Denial in the Pro League, if they can lose to a team like Denial, they can definitely lose to a team as talented as this Midnight core, and their Search and Destroy should be very good. Of course, one thing long term is whether they will get blown apart internally by the egos on the squad. Now, Lacefield and Parasite definitely have strong egos. Don't know too much about Llama. Pretty sure that Blazt is a relatively chill guy, and then you've got Saints as well, who I think just kind of sit back and relax. And Lacefield and Parasite have managed to get on before on that Ghost squad, so we'll have to see how it goes, but I kind of feel like this squad could be decent. It could put up a fight. Parasite tends to do things where he'll go into an event with a brand new squad, and he'll cause some upsets in the pool play at the very least, and that happened a lot in Black Ops 3. Okay, times have changed, but we'll have to see how it goes. It's an interesting squad. It's not an upgrade on paper, and it seems like a mishmash of a lot of different players that Midnight are trying to to just exploit yourself as much as possible when franchising comes into effect. But I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on this. Where do you see them finishing in this pool? Do you see them taking advantage of that 5-2 spot in the Pro League and kicking on towards that top 4 qualification, which almost, it'd be difficult for them to fail, surely, with the talent on this team? So I hope you guys enjoyed. Like if you did, subscribe if you're new, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, as always, and I'll see you next time.